U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
Hello, hi, howdy,
Oh,
hola.
God.
Well,
You know she's IRGC, right? She's IRGCIO.
Yes, I did know that, yeah.
welcome to Rising. We have an absolutely mind-shattering show for you here today.
Can't
Not
wait.
one, but two radars. That's right. You'll hear from both me
Wow.
and Brianna. Also, some excellent guests,
Triple
and you're just
Hitler.
gonna love.
Which one's Triple Hitler? The show in general or just her? Bro, she's literally
Our show
on
today.
she's on IRGC shows all the time. And then like Kyle Kalinske had the like I think Kyle Kalinske is honestly that dumb that he
Yeah.
like brought her on for that fucking debate thinking that they would make headway or something. Like she's not like a fucking paid agent. I wonder how these two interact off camera. Well, she said
They
she
don't.
hates this show.
Did she really?
She literally tells people not to watch it.
That's so funny.
It's a job, bro.
Oh man.
I can really feel it. Don't you think so?
I'm inspired by you. I'm confident that it's going to be a wonderful show because of that intro, Robbie. You're really bringing the heat today.
I'm glad to hear it. Let's take it away.
All right. Well, the United States seems to be marching closer to a full-on war with Iran.
Yep, full
Does
on.
he
war.
not have the single most punchable face you've ever seen? Oh my god. Just aggravating.
Like this company is just a gateway to work with Kyle Kalinske at this point. Like
Yeah.
Ryan Grimm was taken from there. I think Ryan Grimm
Mhm.
still works with Crystal over there. He might work for
Mhm.
both. I don't know.
Yeah.
As
He's a
reports
fucking
indicate,
moron, too.
Biden is planning a
He's the
quote
best out of all of
campaign
them.
in the region that
Yeah.
could last weeks. NBC News reported
Oh
that the
my
campaign
God, really? A
will hit
campaign that could
Iranian
last
targets
weeks?
outside of the
Wow.
They said weeks instead of months.
Crazy weeks.
Hmm.
country and will include both physical and digital attacks. Iran
Nice.
has warned that it will respond decisively to attacks on its territory or interests.
Meanwhile, the blame game over who got us into the current situation.
How do you
with
feel
Iran
about Ryan
continues.
Grimm's
Former
coverage
President
of
Trump
India
blamed
and Pakistan? Do you think he does a good job? Because I haven't looked at that specifically.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Biden's alleged appeasement of Tehran for the tension, while Biden blames Trump's unilateral killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani
Fuck
and
that
the
guy.
pullout from the Iran nuclear deal. However, when asked if he would strike Iran, Trump seemingly demurred. Let's take a look.
I would assume he's pro Imran Khan.
Biden said that he has already decided how he
Ryan Grimm.
Yeah,
Mm.
because I mean that just makes sense because he's got the Chomsky angle where it's like American interference and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You know, but it's like it's not even clear if like he's definitely like a populist candidate, but
Mhm.
like it's not even clear. You can't even like get an accurate reading on if he's the most popular. I mean, they're certainly preventing him from running, but they are with Trump too.
attack on the 3 Americans killed. If you were in the White House today, would you strike Iran directly?
It wouldn't have happened if I were in the White House.
He always says
You
this.
would have never
He's
had this
full of
attack.
shit.
You would have never had the attack on Israel. You would have never had the attack on Ukraine.
Yeah, okay.
You would not have inflation that
It's the easiest way to
just
dodge.
destroying our country.
Yeah.
Instead of
and
saying I would bomb Iran.
Yeah, and it tickles the fancies of all his fucking sycophants too. Like he's just playing the crowd.
Okay, we
The
can just
inflation is so
skip his
bad.
take because I don't care.
Yeah,
Because
it's
he's
already
going to say nothing. He's going to say
Also,
stuff
in
that's
Middle
less
East
relevant
news, the
than these
Biden
two.
administration
done.
is reportedly reviewing options for recognizing Palestinian statehood following the war in Gaza.
Yep.
If enacted, this would represent a massive shift in policy, as for decades, America has opposed external recognition of Palestine, preferring that Israel and the Palestinian Authority negotiate amongst themselves. Additionally, the Biden
Well, I think that
administration is facing a flurry of
The
protests.
time for that has passed. Fuck Israel. It's time to force their hand.
Okay, so like this is the how do you feel about it? Do you think that the US, I mean, because like the US has like obviously the US is like you need if you're gonna do like a coup, which they did, it was a legal coup, right, in Pakistan. But you're gonna need to turn to like other backers, especially with a country like Pakistan, and be like, we're good if we do this, right? Because the
Mhm.
US has like stopped this kind of shit from happening in other
Yeah.
countries, you know? So it's like, how deep do we consider US
You dropped out
interference,
again.
you know? Okay, let me
You
know.
dropped out again.
Let me know. Here we go. Back?
You're right, go.
Okay. How deep do we think U.S. interference actually goes? What do we actually define as interference, you know?
Oh, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Including one happening as we speak in the nation's capital. Coordinated protests have shut down major highways into the city, causing massive traffic jams and issues with even government officials getting to work.
And our own show, which was delayed our start time a little bit because of the trouble that employees had getting into the
I don't think
protests.
anybody will notice these particular government officials not getting to work on time, given that we just came out of one of the least productive congressional sessions of all time. All right.
So it was interesting finally to hear from Trump a little bit on the situation in the Middle East. However, I think it's frustrating to not get more concrete answers for what he would do differently. He keeps saying, well, it wouldn't have happened under me. Okay, that's all well and good to say that, but I do want to know, I really want to know what his policy differences would be. You can imagine the Ukraine policy being
you're not going to get to know, buddy.
Perhaps the Iran policy. There is, in fact, a healthy appetite
so
among
manufactured
some...
and staged.
Yeah.
You know?
You can, it just smells fake. You can just tell.
He's like, now I have to fill the time saying this and acting like it's not bullshit.
She would never speak to him in real life. Not even once.
She pegs
movement, conservative media, people, Carlson and Candace Owens, thunderously disagreeing with the more hawkish consensus.
It's dead. What'd you say?
I said she pegs him in real life.
Among some Democrats and then some leading Republicans like Lindsey Graham and others. Where does Trump come down on this? I think it's an open question.
Who
Obviously,
cares?
Soleimani, he hired John Bolton. He certainly engaged hawkish impulses at times.
John Bolton. Oh no! Like, bro, irrelevant shit. Gotta fill your fucking time slot, bro. Look at her, just like she hates herself and him.
A more cautious note. He did commit to the pullout of Afghanistan that Biden carried through. He spoke against the Iraq War. It's an open question, and it's a shame he didn't participate in the debates because I would really like to see where his policies differ from Nikki Haley and Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, it is an open question only because
I said double click to fast forward through this guy, but he's done. So now we can hear her dumb take.
Yeah.
He has said this a million times before, and he keeps saying it because he gets away with it. If he doesn't get the right follow-up questions, he can simply say, nothing bad would ever happen when I'm president. Therefore, I don't have to answer specific questions about what I would do in the current situation. He needs to be able to distinguish himself from Joe Biden and how he is handling the ongoing crises in the country, including, by the way, an economic crisis like inflation, which has come down over the last year or so, in which Trump needs to address. Does he?
Oh my God! Who the fuck cares?
If so, would he continue the policies
what does this
that
have
Biden
to
had
do
put
with
into
bombing
effect?
Iran?
There's something outside of Biden's
Trump.
Fucking inflation.
Because Trump, don't you understand? Trump clicks Trump.
All she's looking at is the fucking timer. How long she has
she's
to
looking
fill in the
straight
show
at it.
segment.
Policymaking that has caused that, well, then say that, but then you can no longer blame Biden for inflation if you think there are these factors outside of his control. But he gets away with this kind of murder, and then he benefits from the public's ability to project onto him whatever policy decisions they want. And this is really incumbent on journalists, and including right-leaning journalists with whom he trusts and with whom he has a better relationship, to follow up and get him on the record of some things. Because you're right, there are a lot of people out there who are frustrated with the hawkishness that's been demonstrated by the core, both the Democratic and
exactly. If they don't,
nobody's more anti-free speech than Donald Trump, bro.
Republican Party. Is he really offering an alternative to that, or is he just Joe Biden standing next to an elephant instead of next to a donkey?
Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, Biden is telling us exactly what he intends to do, which is coordinated strikes on Iranian targets outside of Iran, which is, I think, somewhat similar to what Nikki Haley said she would do if she was president. Again, this is all
literally
within 48 hours or 72 hours of
all the information. How long has this been playing?
6 minutes, 5 minutes.
Okay, so the only information that's been given is that there's going to be strikes that are week long.
Not even that they're talking about it.
That's it. No. Biden announced that it's going to be weeks long. It's literally the most telegraphed strike of all time. Yeah. They're not going to announce all the
Okay.
strikes, but they said it in the beginning, literally digital and
Mhm.
hard targets inside. Well, digital, they might hit digital attacks inside Iran. That's where they might hit them hard.
themselves of the killing of American soldiers, for which, of course, we should respond and bring the people responsible to justice. The question is, in this short time, there's already a consensus that not just whatever militia group perpetrated the attack, but that Iran is itself responsible. It is true, and we know that Iran funds terrorist groups and militia groups throughout the Middle East. And if you want to say they bear some responsibility for their actions, that is all well and good. That is certainly a standard that America's rivals hold the U.S. to in our funding of other regimes. So fair enough. But did Iran specifically instruct them to do this? Did Iran order them to carry this out? That would be approaching more of a confrontation with the country itself. Or is this something rogue operatives did on their own? I can't imagine we know the answer to that question. Again, this is all happening over the course of 3 days. And yet we've already decided, Biden has already decided, by the way, without, forget Congress, forget our elected representatives debating and discussing the proper response to this conflict, to this confrontation, and then empowering the president to take an action that is narrowly tailored to what they think their constituents believe is the right course of action.
Oh my God, they don't give a fuck about the constituents. The constituents don't know shit about this situation. Worthless.
Our founders gave us a guidebook for what's supposed to happen when America is attacked. That's what's supposed to happen. But no, Biden is...
You're muted.
I am muted. StreamYard reminded me. America wasn't attacked. Shut the fuck up.
Just going to decide it unilaterally on his own in consultation with his generals, and Congress is going to let him because they don't care to actually govern the country.
Yeah, and you're right that there is some consistency.
Like, really, if you've got a base in another country,
it's almost like it's not a fucking war, so Congress doesn't need to fucking vote for shit.
Exactly. But like, it's not. It's not your soil. You might think it is, but it's not. You're in a foreign country. You're liable to attack. You're aware of this.
Yeah.
Like, shut the fuck up. America wasn't attacked. A bomb wasn't dropped on U.S. soil. Shut the fuck up. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Idiots.
Consistency in how we are treating this with this attack, saying Iran funds these groups, so tangentially they are responsible, and how our adversaries internationally have perceived us in the past. But America objected aggressively to that approach when you see the Osama bin Laden 9/11 letter being a very clear articulation of frustration with American foreign policy in of all places, Palestine. So at no point after 9/11 was there a reckoning where we could say without getting canceled.
They literally have said nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. Are you surprised?
No, but this is why I never put them on the list to watch.
Because they say nothing always.
It's fucking amazing how they can do it. I'm impressed.
It's quite a skill. It's Dave Rubin's got it as well, and we'll see some of him later too. So we can see some of him saying nothing too. So that'll be real fun.
Are coming home to roost. We need to investigate Americans' responsibility and its role as playing the rest of the world and why it's caused so many people to be angry. And yet now we're saying, well, we're going to play that exact same card and say, because a group
if Iran actually attacked inside the United States soil, though, it would be different than if it was just somebody striking like military assets somewhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Like this video and move on, please.
Okay.
God, they suck so bad. I don't understand how you can do stuff so bad.
Oh
God, no!
Very important part of the world. West Asia.
Something better.
That is Iran, and we are very, very honored to be joined once again by Mazda Majidi, longtime anti-war activist and an organizer with the Answer Coalition. Mazda, thanks so much for being back with us.
Is that a dog whistle to Hitler?
Hi, using.
It's just nose hairs, though. It's like a fucking caricature. It's not even facial hair. He's got the reverse cut.
Yeah. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I want to start with a story that I think probably some people are somewhat confused about. There's some headlines, but not a lot of explanation. That's the tensions between Iran and Pakistan. Both countries have launched missiles into each other's.
Did his glasses get smaller?
Eugene,
Yeah.
I think he's just more swollen. Can we get to
territory,
the
although it's
actual
maybe not
expert
at
Borat?
each
We
other
already
per
looked
se,
at
but
him
into each other's
yesterday.
territory.
I'll see if,
Let me just
if News
explain what's
Borat
going on
has anything new.
here, Mazda, because I think the way it's being presented is that the countries may be headed towards a bigger conflict.
Yes, it's very inaccurate the way it's being portrayed here in the West.
I bet.
The southeastern region of Iran is the province of Baluchistan, Sistan and Baluchistan, and so is the southwestern region of Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
In both regions, there's an insurgency, a separatist movement. But especially the separatist movement in Iran is supported by U.S. and Israel.
Oh, is it?
Now, this is a
Freeze. StreamYard's off the chain.
in and out of both countries and Afghanistan.
Yeah, there's
No,
new.
it's my internet. It's just hot garbage.
Well, there's no new geopolitics and conflict. The last episode was 2 days ago, and we put it on.
That's unfortunate.
It's it's what's
It
funny.
really seems like my internet's trying to shit bed.
It's so funny because there's it's literally called Geopolitics in Conflict Show.
Mm.
It's not Geopolitics in Conflict. It's Geopolitics in Conflict Show. And what's funny, I think in some intros you see Borat saying "show" at the end, but
yes,
they tried to synchronize it in the beginning, and they kept fucking it up in the early episodes.
It's very funny.
Which is farther north, for that matter, because it's all desert, and it's really hard to control the desert. There's very little water, very little population there, and so forth. So what has happened, particularly in the last couple of years, but it really goes back decades, but in Iran, the separatist forces, some of them with ties with al-qeada, many of them with ties who get money from Israel. They launch these operations within Iran. They kill military.
What? He's talking about Iran. Then he's talking about Syria.
No, he's still talking about Iran. He's talking about Balochistan.
Oh, okay. And how he's justifying them being killed there?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
That's what it sounds like it's getting to. Saying that it's hard to control the desert and all this shit. It just sounds like he's about to say they deserve to
Iran
die.
is a mountain. So, I mean, the Baloch region is pretty desert.
Yeah. Well, that's what he's saying. They can't control it, so just glass it,
Yeah, this was the thing is like he was right when he said like some of these groups do have al-Qaeda ties and stuff. I mean, it depends on how we classify it, but like the funny part about this is that Pakistan's response was just bombing Baloch rebels that were in Iran.
Bomb them.
Like they didn't. It's so like people freaked out and were saying that Pakistan has to respond. This is war now, and they were like, "No, we're just going to kill rebels in their side too."
Including colonels and high-ranking officers. So what transpired recently was that Iran, after years of suggesting to Pakistan to be more adamant about controlling the separatists,
fuck off, bro,
who are on both sides of the border, but in reality, in the Pakistan's region of Baluchistan, they seem to have a little bit of a freer hand. So Iran targeted some of the places where either was their kind of militia centers or locations where had some significance for them. And of course, this was a cross-border attack, and Pakistan responded within a few days by targeting, in fact, similar forces, but on the Iranian side of the border. And of course, in this case, Iran protested and so forth. But in reality, this never really represented a deep divide between the two countries on this issue. But because, both countries have common interests when it comes to dealing with the Baluchi separatists. And so, in fact, right after the rocket attack that happened by Pakistan within Iran in a border
those
town,
wascally wockets.
both countries declared that we're not going to let this escalate, and both countries have friendly relationships and so forth. So this is not a conflict that has the possibility of becoming an escalating regional conflict.
A war.
And of course, the one that does have the possibility of becoming an escalating regional conflict is what's happening with Israel's genocide in Gaza. You have all of these non-state actors, groups like Hezbollah and the Iraqi PMF and the Houthis, as they're called, are Ansar Allah in Yemen.
Because I had to take my
But all that said, I mean, these are all organizations that
I'm pulling the pills out of the bottle, and Zapata's just sitting there at my feet, acting like food for him. And I'm like, okay, well, this is not for you.
Yeah, these ones aren't yours.
He is just being cute.
Are very much organic and indigenous to their areas and consider themselves resistance groups. But you have this portrayal in the US media that actually Iran is, because Iran is allied with these groups, is partnered with these groups, is actually puppeteering them. They're all just Iranian proxies that answer to the Ayatollah, and that includes Hamas. Hamas is portrayed the same way in US media. And as a result, everything that happens, whether it's Ansar Allah intervening by blocking ships that are heading towards Israel in the Red Sea to try to pressure the end to this genocide with economic consequences.
That's one of those red flags, right? So somebody's an idiot if they're not calling them the Houthis. They LARP this fucking IRGC.
The Ansar Allah thing.
If they call them God's little helpers.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Or whether you have this sort of tit-for-tat violence taking place between Hezbollah and the Israelis in South Lebanon, or whether we're talking about the various Iraqi groups firing at American positions in Iraq and Syria.
The ones that just gave up.
Israelis, all of this is portrayed as Iran's hand. And so people are concerned that this could lead, if it continues, because all these groups are saying, as long as there's a genocide in Gaza, we will continue to hit at American and Israeli targets until the genocide ends. All this is being portrayed wrongly in the American media as Iran, and this could lead to a hot war with Iran. So I'm just curious, what is your take on what I just described, the potential escalation of a broader regional war that everybody's so concerned about, and how it's being portrayed in US media?
Well, you're right, Rania, and I think it's important to talk about this thing of portraying all these resistance forces as simply proxies for Iran. I mean, in a way, you can understand why the U.S. does that, because the forces allied with the U.S. are essentially mercenaries. They don't believe in anything. They don't fight for anything that they believe in. They get money, and there's actually many reports of mercenaries currently being used in Israel in the genocide.
So hang on, because the term ally is really loose here. Are we talking about the Peshmerga in Iraqi Kurdistan? Are you talking about the SDF? Are these American allies that don't believe in anything and just get money?
Mm-hmm.
Who?
Maybe we'll find out.
Of Gaza. And so the U.S. kind of assumes that, these other forces are the same. But these are, the other component, though, and the other reason that the U.S. wants to look at it like that is just part of Iran versus Israel, Iran versus Saudi Arabia, is to dismiss the authentic, character of these movements. These are movements of people who put their lives on the line for their beliefs. And in particular, I want to emphasize the resistance in Yemen and the solidarity that the Yemenis are showing for Palestine. I mean, Yemen, having gone through 7 years of Saudi bombings and occupation and destruction, poverty levels of about 50%, and economy in shambles and so forth. I mean, if you told me in mid-October that the Yemenis are going to play a significant role in solidarity with the people of Gaza, I would have laughed like Rania is laughing right now. And it's amazing, like, you know, how could you be a people in so much hardship, in so much difficulty, disease, starvation, yet make it a priority?
Crazy that these people aren't demonetized.
Show solidarity, not
isn't it?
Not in words, not by making statements, but in action. With the
worst that could happen in Ukraine is that certain my chinchilla just escaped. The worst that could happen in Ukraine is certain territory like the Donbass and Crimea will be under Russian control.
Yeah.
The Kurds, on the other hand, especially in the KRG, where you have two sides of the faction. One is more aligned with Iraq and Turkey, and one is more aligned with Iran. And those two factions are the reason why it's not an autonomous state that's officially recognized, because they're ripping the country apart. They're collapsing the economy with their dumb fucking rivalry with each other. And it's really a lot. And literally the one guy on the one side is named Talibani.
You dropped out.
Well, I hope everyone else heard me, and it's just you who sucks.
Maybe.
The people of Gaza, and if we have time, we can talk a little bit more about what those actions are. But the fact is, whether it's Hezbollah in Lebanon, or the Ansar Allah, or the Houthis in Yemen, or Hamas, these are genuine resistance movements. We could talk in detail about them and who they get support from, but none of these forces are proxies of Iran or anyone else for that matter. It is a lineup of forces in the region, as you might expect. There's the pro-imperialist, pro-Zionist forces. There's the pro-independence forces. And of course, these states and forces line up, providing support to one another.
No, I think that's a crucially important point, and I'm glad you raised it, because it does feel that is one of the elements that make it difficult for people in the West, especially, to really understand, is they're not understood as political movements. And it seems to me that they're not understood in their proper context, right? As if there has not been this massive US attempt and, British attempt and French attempt going on for, nearly a century now to sort of shape and determine what, who will rule these areas. Who cares what the people who live there think?
I heard it.
Okay. Reaction to that.
Good
So talk more, if you could, about that point that you raised at the end about who's really supporting these people and what this really represents, because I think there's such a sinister kind of framing put over it in terms of what's going on. That people get confused about who's who and what's what.
Like Yemen in particular, Eugene?
Well, Yemen in particular, but any others you want to comment on as well.
Okay, well, let me start with Yemen. I mean, the people of Yemen, of course, there were, political conflict. It's a country that holds elections. It had a parliament. It has a president.
But of course, TV is so much better when it's just Rihanna and not Eugene.
Exist, and
yeah, I think so.
Eugene is not
like QIT.
Yeah, because she's so good at the bullshit stuff.
Yes. Yeah, she does really well.
The biggest difficulty that the Yemenis suffer is Saudi intervention. If you look at a map, Yemen is part of the
where? Saudi Arabia literally wants nothing to do with this. Every time the U.S. is like, "Hey, you want to get involved in this defense pact?" They're like, "Stop calling us." No. We do not want to get back into Yemen. Leave us the fuck alone.
It is the part that has no oil. So there's a vast difference between Yemen and Saudi Arabia in terms of weapons.
Who did?
Saudi Arabia and Yemen. They kill Ethiopian migrants and traffic them into the kafala system together. So
cool. That's great.
Yeah.
That's cool of them.
Yemen, the Houthis sell the Saudi their slaves for the kafala system. No, they don't want to fucking fight the Houthis.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Well, and when the forces called in the U.S. mainly, or in the West, as Houthis, it's a political formation called Ansar Allah. When they were beginning to emerge as victorious in the civil conflict in Yemen, Saudi Arabia intervened. It wasn't just Saudi Arabia. It was a coalition of forces led by Saudi Arabia. mostly reactionary Persian Gulf monarchies.
Mm-hmm.
And the war lasted for 7 years. Saudi Arabia, taking a page from the US Air Force, bombed schools and mosques and weddings. And, there were a lot of deaths. And of course, the US fully supported them. And especially now, you can see why. I'm saying
Fully
from the
supported
perspective of the imperialists, from the perspective of the...
I wonder if this full support was them selling, or whether it was gifted weapons. I'm gonna have a fat guess and say it was selling. But what do I know? We only have 1,000 subscribers, and we're not funded by Hezbollah.
Reactionary governments in the Persian Gulf, it is very embarrassing today to have the people of Yemen, led by Ansar Allah, providing resistance to Israel and showing solidarity for the people of Gaza, where they have no interest whatsoever. Yemen doesn't have any borders with Israel, is not particularly close to Israel. But one point in geography is that, the waterway, the Gulf of Aden, leading to the Red Sea, goes through a narrow strait called Bab el-Mandab, which is, about 20 miles, and there's even an island in between it. So the ships that provide oil and other supplies to Israel have to go through the Bab el-Mandab. And despite its limited military...
Is that why they were attacking every ship except for Chinese and Russian ships, was it?
I mean, I thought a Russian ship did get hit.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
As far as I was aware, it was
speaking of
Chinese and Russian that were getting through.
I think the Pakistan Navy just came to the rescue of people who were getting attacked by Somali pirates.
No shit.
Yeah, I think that just happened.
Interesting.
Capabilities, the Yemeni military has decided to target every Israeli ship and every ship headed for Israel with supplies as a way of providing support for
not Pakistan,
the people of Gaza. But basically, whether we're talking about Ansar Allah and the Yemeni people and the Houthis, or we're talking about southern Lebanon or Hezbollah or Hamas, we're talking about movements, very much movements, not proxy forces, not even militaries, although they have militias and they have armed wings. But there are movements for independence against Israeli Zionism and US imperialism. And these are movements that have existed in the region in one form or another ever since the end of World War I and the Sykes-Picot Treaty. And the US can say, and Israel can say whatever they want about Hamas and Hezbollah and so forth. They may even, have successes in repressing them, but resistance itself is not.
Okay, it might have been India.
No matter how much they do it. And
yes, I have him in the tissue box.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?